Hey, friend. Now, I've been calling you friend since day one, and while I love it, I do. Whole time, friend, you need a name. Y'all need a name, okay? We know my name, Amika. Just saying. Okay. But for real though, I'm your girl with the facts, your nosy home girl from round the way. I'm the one your people gonna text when something happened, and everybody go, wait, hold on, let me call her because she gonna know. And friend, I do know because I don't went and found it. That is just who I am. So if this is your first time pulling up on me, welcome. You are right on time. Get you a seat. And if you've been here since last week, right? We are one whole week in. At this point, your family, because this is episode 3. And I just want you to know I appreciate you more than you know. But first things first, I want to come in here and real quick do a midweek check in, friend. How are you doing? And I mean that, like, really, how are you doing? Because life be life, and sometimes it do. And if don't nobody else check on you this week, know that I'm going to do it, okay? So I know y'all hear this raspy voice I got going on. Let me tell you about how life lifed for me this week, okay? My children were sick, both of them. I'm talking headaches, body aches, all of the above, okay? Got sick, came home Sunday, and my son got up on Saturday and went to his track meet. And I'm telling y'all, friend, he showed out, okay? That's what happened to my voice because if don't nobody else cheer for my babies, I'm going to cheer for my babies, okay? So now that you know what's up with my voice, stick with me through it, okay? And if you do, I appreciate you more than you know, okay? now, now that we've done our check-in, I need to tell you something before we get into it, okay? Today's story is about a man, a whole grown man, okay? This man was a no good ass man, a hollow, empty, trifling, okay? I mean, real trifling man. You know what I'm saying? He was a real trifling mofo, walking around in a fresh haircut and a smile like he earned it, like he was somebody, like the world owed him an audience. And he was just going to help himself to one wherever that came from. Now, friend, he had a wife at home, had a whole girlfriend down the road, and had babies in both houses. Okay. Went to work, had cookouts, waved at the neighbors, held the door open for strangers. Like, sir, for what? Okay. Because none of it was real. Not one piece of it. Okay. I feel like his wife was a prop. The girlfriend was a prop. The cookouts, the job, the easy smile, all of it was just some type of set dressing. He was putting on a performance for whoever was standing in front of him at the time. Okay. Because that is what men like this do. They don't have a sense of self. They really just mirror back and they reflect back whatever you need to see long enough to get what they want. And the second you ain't useful no more, it's like you never existed to them, okay? Nobody was home in this man's mind, friend. Lights was on whole time, but nobody was there. And the terrifying part was that he was so good at it. Like real live good at it. The kind of good that make you question everything you knew about reading a person. And this is why I love to study people. This right here, okay? But friend, let's get into it. Now, picture a courtroom, Louisiana, 1999. It's a man standing up in front of a judge and he just pled guilty to stalking a woman. And this ain't his first time in this building, and it's not his second time either, okay? The court got a whole file on him, so I'm gonna read a little bit of it for you. In 1988, he tried to get into an inhabited dwelling, okay? He breaking and entering unauthorized. Somebody's home. Okay. He got 1 year hard labor suspended. They sent him home on probation. 1995, Peeping Tom, resisting arrest, tearing up somebody's property, 6 months, suspended sentence, probation. 1997, two more counts of Peeping Tom again, probation again. And now here he go in 1999, stalking a woman, standing in front of this judge. And friend, you already know what they did. Suspended sentence. 6 months hanging over his head, not sitting on his body. Go home, sir. Okay? Go home. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I got to this part of the file, I had to sit it down for a minute Because every time they put this man in front of a judge after he done put his hands on something that belonged to somebody else, a woman's window, her door, her piece, the system looked at him and said, "We gonna let you slide this one more time," and then continue to do it over and over again, one more time. And if some don't sit right in my spirit, y'all know I'm gonna find out. Because what do you mean? Now, that man in the courtroom, his name is Derrick Todd Lee. Okay. And by the time Louisiana figured out who he really was, he had a different name. They called him the Baton Rouge serial killer. Okay. And here's what the receipts gonna show you. Not what I think, what the court papers say with the dates on him, his own record. Okay. They had him, friend. They had his name, they had his face. They had a woman who survived him and looked the police dead in the eye and described him. They had a record on him going all the way back, buffering in real time. All the way back to when he was a teenager, friend. And at least 7 women were murdered, maybe more. Okay. So before anybody ever called him the Baton Rouge serial killer, this man was just Derrick Todd Lee. Born November 5th, 1968, raised up in St. Francisville, Louisiana. And if you don't know it, St. Francisville is a little bitty town north of Baton Rouge. I didn't know it either. I had to look it up. So it's like maybe 2,000 people back then. The kind of place where everybody know everybody and everybody in your business, whether you want them there or not. Now, friend, his childhood was not easy, and I give him that much. This one time, and only this one time. Okay. He was one of 13 and a half children. Okay. All of them had different daddies. Everybody was split up and scattered. His own father, Derrick, didn't even meet this man until he was 21 years old. And from what the records show, his father was dealing with some serious mental illnesses on top of it. And so it was just his mother holding it down. And Derrick leaned on her hard. Okay. I'm talking, he had asthma. He was a special needs child, speech therapy, called his own self a loner, made it to the 11th grade, and that was it. Dropped out, never went back. Now I want to stop right there because I know somebody out there is just like, oh, no, friend. Because as soon as we heard hard childhood, you already reaching for an excuse, already warming it up, ready to hand it over. And I'm going to need you to put it down, okay? Put it down, friend. A whole lot of people came up rough. No father, no money, hard road every single day. And they all grew up, right? They grew all the way up and ain't hurt nobody. So we going to hold both things at the same time like we do over here because two things can be true. His childhood was hard, and it don't explain one solitary thing he chose to do. Okay, two things, both true. We gonna move on. Now, here's where it gets interesting, friend. He grew up, and nobody looked at him twice, and I mean that literally. This man picked up some trades along the way. He was a pipe fitter, a cement finisher. He had commercial license for hauling chemicals. The man went to work. The people that worked alongside of him said he was good at what he did. He could read a blueprint. He was easy to talk to. He was a regular old dude. Now, he got married in 1988 to a woman named Jacqueline. They had 2 kids, bought a house. He worked his jobs. He had cookouts on the weekends. Whole time, he had a girlfriend named Cassandra down the road and a baby with her, too. A whole second household just running both simultaneously with his whole chest, okay? And his wife, she knew about Cassandra, knew about the cheating. And the way she told it later, she just quit caring and made her peace with the man she thought she had. But baby, while she thought she had a cheater, she was sleeping next to a monster. And here's the part my psychology brain will not let go of. Every single person who knew this man landed on the exact same thing in the exact same place when they tried to explain him. He was charming, smooth, clean cut, easy smile, the kind of man that would knock on your door at 10 in the morning and have you handing him your phone before you even thought twice about it because something was wrong. Now I need you to hold on to that charm, that personality, tuck it away in your back pocket because that charm right there, it was not just a personality trait. It was the weapon. And we're going to see how it works every single time. Now that was the Derrick everybody could see, friend. But there was another one. And that Derrick had been creeping up into women's windows in the dark since he was a teenager. Okay. Now, before I take you into the spree that everybody knows about, I got to carry you back a little first because this man didn't just appear out of nowhere in Baton Rouge one day. He had a whole history, and in his whole town, in his hometown, buffering, real time, they already knew something wasn't right about him, okay? Zachary, Louisiana, a little town right up the road from where Lee stayed. Zachary had been living under his shadow before anybody ever said the words Baton Rouge serial killer. In 1992, a woman named Connie Warner, 41 roughly, she was beaten to death. Her body found near a lake about a week after she went missing from her home. She lived in the same little subdivision as Derrick Todd Lee. The police looked right at him, but they couldn't make anything stick. And now here's something I need you to tuck away right now because it's going to matter later. From Connie Warner's crime scene, her keys were missing. Gone. Just gone. Because what did he need with keys? Then in April of 1993, a young couple parked out by a graveyard one night in Zachary, just out there together minding their business. A man rushes them with a 3-foot cane knife, like one of them walking canes, but it was a knife. Now, friend, both of them survived, but barely, okay? And the young woman that was there, her name was Michelle Chapman. And she said this about the man who came out of the dark that night. She said she looked her attacker right in the eyes and said, I'm quoting her directly. They were big and bloodshot and full of rage. End quote. A Zachary police officer named Troy Eubanks spotted the car that night, pulled in behind it, and shined his flashlight on it and found them babies covered in blood, okay? Lee ran the second he saw that cruiser coming, dropped the knife in a ditch and everything on his way out. Now, because it was raining that night, every single bit of evidence washed right off that weapon. He walked away clean again. Years later, when Michelle Chapman was finally shown a photo lineup, she pointed dead at Derrick Todd Lee. And guess what happened, friend? The law said too much time had passed. The clock had ran out. Like, ma'am, go home. Have a great day. We're sorry, but there's nothing we can do now. Because what in the actual, okay, make it make sense. And then, friend, get this. In April of 1998, a woman named Randy Mew Brewer, hard one. She was roughly 28. She vanished right up out of her own home in Zachary. There were no signs of a break-in, but it was a violent struggle. There was a trail of blood winding through the house and her keys missing, just like Connie Walker's keys from 6 years before. So at this point, he's collecting souvenirs. Until this day, friend, her body has never been found. Okay. 3 women, friend. One little town, one man the police kept circling, kept looking at, kept almost getting to, and could never hold him. All of that, and not one person stopped him. And then this stuff moved to Baton Rouge. So September 23rd, 2001, I need you to picture something for me, friend. It's a Sunday evening in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and a registered nurse named Gina Wilson is coming home from a night out with her sister, roughly 41 years old, the kind of woman who spent every single working day taking care of other people, specialized in infusion therapy, drove a BMW convertible, doted on her Nicest. The kind of woman somebody's mother would point at and be like, now that's a good woman right there, right? She lived on Stanford Avenue, right by LSU. Nice neighborhood, the kind of street where you wave when you pull out the driveway. But friend, something you need to know about Gina before we go further. Gina Wilson Green already knew something wasn't right. She had already told people she felt unsafe, already said it out loud to people, and because of it, she placed cans of pepper spray at every single window in her home. This woman was paying attention. She felt something, she acted on it, she was trying to protect herself. And at 3:45 in the morning, her security alarm went off. She got up, checked every window, checked every door. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But nearby, lurking in the darkness, okay, he was watching, angry that the alarm had stopped him. The next day, on the 24th, a coworker came to check on Gina when she didn't show up and they found her. She had been beaten, raped, and strangled to death in her own home, undressed in the kitchen and placed on her bed. That's what the file shows. Her earrings and her shoes were scattered in different rooms. Clumps of her hair were on the floor. There was no broken window, no kicked in door, no scratched lock, no signs of forced entry, none. Which means somebody talked their way inside that door, past the pepper spray on every window, past the alarm, past everything this woman had done to try to keep herself safe. He walked right past all of it, probably with a smile. He took her cell phone, her purse, her shorts, like souvenirs, like things he earned, okay? And weeks later, they found her cell phone in an alley on Choctaw Street. Her purse and her shorts turned up too, just dumped like she was nothing, okay? And I need you to catch this about that because it matters. He didn't need her things. He wasn't just out here robbing people for survival. He took them because something of hers meant she belonged to him, okay? And he could take from her. Now that's not a robbery, friend. That's a statement. And even in the worst moments of her life, Gina did leave us with something. On her blouse that night, detectives collected it and sent it to the Louisiana State Police Crime Lab. The crime lab pulled a full DNA profile, the kind so specific and rare that it pointed essentially to one single person alive on this earth. Okay, one person. The DNA had his profile. They said it's this man and nobody else. They just didn't have his name. And while Gina was laying in that house, this man was not a ghost. He had a name, he had an address, remember, a job, a wife, a girlfriend, and two babies in both houses, and neighbors that waved at him when he pulled out his driveway, okay? And an investigator up in Zachary already had their eye on him in connection to Randy, remember? Now, his name was already in a file somewhere, but he was free, unbothered, living his regular life like Gina Wilson Green would never get to do. But we're going to keep coming back to that. Now, January 14th, 2002, Geraldine DeSoto, 21 years old. Now, friend, I need you to sit with this for a moment before we go anywhere because that same morning, Geraldine had registered for school at LSU. She was just a couple of months away from starting a program to become an occupational therapist. She had a whole future she was building on her own, okay? And that afternoon, she had a job interview set up for 2:30. She never made it. Now, just before noon, somebody broke into Geraldine's mobile home on Highway 1 in Addis, okay? Smacked her upside the head with a telephone, stabbed her 3 times, and friend, here's what I need you to understand about who Geraldine DeSoto was, because she did not go down, okay? She ran. She ran to her bedroom and got her shotgun and she turned it on him, okay? Already bleeding, already attacked, grabbed a shotgun and tried to end that man right there. He jerked it out of her hands though. And then he cut her throat and stomped on her body. And even then, after all of that, she also left us something. When they did her autopsy, they found his DNA up under her fingernails. She scratched him, clawed him, taking a piece of him with her, and the bloody footprints that tracked through the home matched a pair of boots that a man owned. She fought him with the shotgun friend and he took it from her and she kept fighting even with her bare hands. She left receipts of herself in the middle of the worst moment of her life with everything she had left in her body. She deserved every single day of the future that she was building. Now, May 31st, 2002, we got Charlotte Murray Pace. She's 22 years old. The people who loved her just called her Murray, so we gonna call her Murray too, okay? Murray had just graduated from LSU, the youngest person in her entire class to earn an MBA. She had relocated just 2 days before to a townhouse on Charlotte Avenue that she shared with her roommate. She had a career lined up, whole life in front of her. And friend, here's something about Murray and Gina that I need you to hold. Because before Murray moved to Charlotte Avenue, she and Gina Wilson Green had lived close to each other on Stanford Avenue. They jogged in the same park near LSU, right? Two women, same neighborhood, same park, same killer, and they never knew each other. So he got a pattern. He watching, he stalking. Now I'm gonna be honest and careful with you at the same time, right? Because that's what we do here. What that man did to Murray Pace is the most savage thing he did in this entire file. And I'm not going to paint you a complete picture because she deserves more than to only be remembered as her worst day. But the record is the record. And the record says that while her roommates were away, he got inside the townhouse. He raped her and stabbed her 81 times with a flathead screwdriver and beat her with a clothes iron. She had defensive wounds covering her arms and her hands, which means she was awake, friend, fighting, trying to stay alive with everything she had. Okay. She didn't go down easy. She didn't go down quiet. Everybody that this man encounters makes this man work for something he should have never gotten near in the first place. Now, before Murray moved to Charlotte Avenue, she and Gina had lived 3 doors down from each other on Stanford Avenue. And when the lab compared the DNA that he left on Murray to what he left on Gina, again, pointed to the same man. Now they know for a fact they got a serial killer in Baton Rouge, but they still don't have his name. Now, July 9th, 2002, and this one, friend, this is where that charm I told you to hold on to back in the beginning comes all the way out our pocket. A woman named Diane Alexander. She was 46. She had a home in Bro Bridge, just about to go on about her day, and somebody knocks on her door. Nice looking man, clean, calm, completely unbothered, tells her his name is Anthony, okay? Says he's looking for the Montgomerys, a family he claims that lives nearby. Asks could he use the phone to figure out where he was going. Maybe look at a phone book real quick. He was so easy, friend, so normal, like somebody you'd say thank you to for holding that door open for you at the gas station, and she ain't think nothing of it. And why would she? That was the whole point. And that's exactly what I need you to feel right now. Now, psychology is my academic background. I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not studying to be one. I just want to make sure we clear on that, okay? So you know how it is. But I've always been fascinated with why people do what they do, behaviors, patterns, the gaps between what somebody shows you and what's actually underneath it. And serial killers specifically have always pulled me in a way I can't fully explain. But that's a story for a whole nother Wednesday, possibly. Just know that's partially why I'm here, right? Now, friend, men like this one, the most dangerous thing about them is that they don't look scary, right? It's that he looked like everybody else. He sounded like everybody else. He practiced being everybody else until he could just do it without thinking. That charm wasn't something he had on top of everything else. It was the whole operation, the weapon. And he had been sharpening it since he was a teenager, being a little creeper up to people's windows in the dark, okay? Now, back to Diane, because the second her guard came down, the second he confirmed her husband wasn't home, that nice man was gone, forced his way in, attacked her. And when he couldn't finish what he came to do, he got angry. He beat her, cut the cord from her telephone, okay, and wrapped it around her throat. Diane was fading, almost gone. And then God sent her an angel, okay? Her son pulled up in the driveway. And this brave little coward heard that car and ran out the back door, snatching the telephone cord with him on the way out, okay? Like a trophy. Now, Diane Alexander survived. She had a fractured skull. She was airlifted to the hospital, but friends, she survived. And because she survived, she was able to give them something nobody else had been able to give them, except that one girl back in Zachary. She was able to give them a face. Now, tuck that telephone cord away in the back pocket, friend, because the cord ain't done talking. Not even close, okay? Now, 3 days. 3 days is all the time that passed before he went at it again. This time, Pamela Kennemore, about 40 years old, a former beauty queen, owned an antique shop, loved her whole community. Her husband Byron came home late on the night of July 12th to their house on Briarwood Place and knew something was wrong immediately. The bathtub was still full of water, like somebody had just been about to get in, but there were spots of blood on the bathroom work. The furniture was disheveled, but there was no sign of forced entry into the home, and Pam was just gone. Okay. 4 days later, on July 16th, a survey crew working out by Whiskey Bay off Interstate 10, keep that in your back pocket too, they found her body. She had been raped, her throat had been cut, and it was more than one time. Okay. Now, in the summer heat, it had been so brutal in them 4 days that investigators could only identify her through her dental records. But even here, even then, she left us with something. Well, he left us with something. A few hundred feet away from where they found her, that piece of telephone cord. And when the forensic scientists from the Academia Criminalistic Laboratory examined it, he testified that that piece of cord and the piece of cord that remained in Diane Alexander's home came from, and I'm quoting him directly, the same continuous length of cord, end quote. From one woman's home in Brobridge to another woman's body in Whiskey Bay 3 days apart, carried from scene to scene like it was nothing, okay? Now, this right here is just where my cop brain starts talking for a second, friend, because whoever this man was, he clearly had zero discipline, okay? And was not the brightest crayon in the box, or both. What do you mean you leaving evidence everywhere you go? You took the cord, you carried it with you, and then you left it right there 100 feet away from her body? Roughly 100 feet. This man was not careful. He wasn't calculating. He was just comfortable moving through the world like nobody was ever going to catch him. Okay. And that comfort right there is the creepiest thing in the whole file to me. But I got to stop right here because this next part is real personal. So, friend, psychology is my academic background. We have established that. And no, again, I'm not a psychologist and I'm not studying to be one. Okay. We're going to keep making sure that's clear. But I have always been fascinated by people, by their behavior, by why someone does what they does when nobody is watching. Okay. And again, serial killers have always pulled me in. Don't know why. But when I was a little girl, I didn't want to be a singer. I didn't want to be a teacher. None of that. Okay. I wanted to be a criminal profiler. I wanted to sit in a room with the case nobody could crack and read the person right from the evidence, figure out the who from the how. Something about it just leaks. It lights something up in me. Okay. Still does. It's probably half the reason why this podcast even exists, real talk. So let me put you on to something before we keep going, because profiling ain't what they show you on TV. Like on TV, that lady or that man walks in, they touch one wall, close their eyes and go, he's a white man, 32, lives alone, troubled childhood. And everybody in the room gasps and looks at each other. Fred, that's not how it works, okay? That's not how any of that works. Here is what criminal profiling actually is, okay? An investigator looks at the evidence left at a crime scene, the way the crime was carried out, how the victims were selected, what was taken, what was left behind, what they used, all of it. They use that to build a statistical picture of the most likely type of person who could have done it. Not a specific person, a type of person, okay? So it's a probable set of characteristics designed to help narrow down a massive pool of suspects into something investigators can actually work with. So basically, friend, what I'm telling you is they studying the how, okay? They're making an educated guess about the who. The behavior tells you something about the psychology of the person, and the psychology tells you something about the life that built it. Now, used right, it's a genuinely valuable investigative tool, and I love it. Okay. But here's what it's not. It's not a fact. It's not a confession. It's not gospel. It is a probability, an educated guess built on patterns and statistics. And the second you forget that part, the second you start treating your educated guess like it's the absolute truth and stop questioning it, you stop looking everywhere else. And that's exactly what happened here. Now, the profile on the Baton Rouge killer came back and said this: white male, 25 to 35. And they already had a witness who said they saw a white man and a white truck, white pickup truck to be exact, near one of the scenes. So that was it. A white man, white truck, done. In their mouths, the profile was confirmed. Now, you know what they did with that probability once they decided it was gospel, friend? They went and swabbed over 1,000 white men, running up on innocent people, making them open their mouths for a swab, taking their DNA based on a profile. Because we know how they love to do that, okay? Now, they had already decided what the truth was. This person just couldn't be black. Ain't no way. Not one way, okay? Now, how do I know there was a racial assumption baked into all of this, friend? Because I want to be careful here. I don't say things I can't back up. All right. The receipt on this one comes straight from the Louisiana Supreme Court, their own written opinion, and I'm going to read it to you exactly as it appears. When a tip came in naming Derrick Todd Lee, the task force dismissed it because he was, quote, neither white nor did he drive a white truck, end quote. That's the Louisiana Supreme Court in their own words in a written legal opinion, okay? They didn't look at the tip and investigate it. They immediately ruled him out. They looked at his name realized he was black, put him in a drawer because he didn't match the picture that they had already drew up and decided was true. That assumption was not hiding in the room, it was written in a record. And here's the part that's almost too wild to say out loud. While that entire task force was locked onto a white man for these murders, there really was at that time a white serial killer operating in Baton Rouge at the exact same time. Whole different man by the name of Sean Gillis out here killing women in the same city. Okay. Them same years, drove a white car and everything. So the idea that a white man could be out here doing this was not crazy because one was. He just wasn't doing these, okay? But two different monsters, same city, same years, and the task force have forced themselves to be pointed in the direction of the wrong one for the murders that we're talking about. Meanwhile, in between, wild friend, these women kept dying. And when they finally let the science speak without the assumption riding on top of it, the DNA came back and said the one thing that the whole operation didn't want to hear. Their man was black. Been black. Whole time. Whole entire time. A whole task force with their resources, all their manpower, so locked in on the wrong picture they couldn't see past it. And the man they actually wanted, he wasn't hiding from nobody. He was out there going to work, coming home free as you and me, okay? Used up every single second of the time they wasted. Because while they were still chasing somebody else for these murders, he wasn't finished. Nowhere near close, okay? Now, November 21st, 2002, Tranisha DeCone, she was roughly 23 years old. This young woman served her country. She was in the Army. She was planning on joining the Marines. A whole service woman with a future built on discipline and showing up every day for something bigger than herself. She went missing from Grand Coteau up by Lafayette. And when they found her car, it was sitting right by a cemetery. Happened to be the same cemetery where her own mother had been buried just 7 months before. She was probably out there visiting her mother. And 3 days later, a hunter found Tranisha in the woods near Scott, Louisiana. She had been raped and beaten to death. And Tranisha's case marked something important in his timeline. Okay. She was actually his first black victim and the first woman he took from completely outside the Baton Rouge area. He was no longer staying in one neighborhood, one zip code, one city. He was starting to spread out. He was getting bolder and his cooling off periods between attacks buffering in real time. Stick with me. They were getting shorter. The need to kill was getting stronger. Okay. Now, that last part is just my analysis, friend, not the record, but the timeline speaks for itself, and we're going to continue to let it. Now, that white man profile was still up, still wrong. Okay. And families across Louisiana were still out here burying their people. March the 3rd, 2003, Carrie Lynn Yoder, 26 years old, graduate student at LSU studying biological science, lived on Dotson Avenue by campus. Her boyfriend is the one who reported her missing that evening. He came by and found the front door unlocked, a key holder knocked askew, a broken necklace on the floor, and a small spot of blood on her purse. And Carrie was just gone. For 10 days, people didn't know where she was. There was 10 days of searching, helicopters, questionnaires handed out at the Winn-Dixie down the road, 10 days of her people waking up every morning and not knowing. And then on March 13th, a fisherman out of some river basin I can't pronounce, starts with the A, looks like Atchafalaya, found her near Whiskey Bay Bridge. Remember? The same water where Pam Kennemore had been found. They believed he threw her in the bridge. She had been raped, beaten, strangled, and stomped. And when the DNA came back from her autopsy, again, the same man. Okay? He had been to Whiskey Bay before. He knew exactly where he was going. So let's count it, friend. Michelle Chapman and her boyfriend in 1993, attacked in a graveyard with a 3-foot cane knife, survived, but they carried that night with them for the rest of their lives. And the man who did it just walked away clean. Connie Warner, 1992, beaten to death in her own home in Zachary. Randy Mubrier, 1998, vanished from her home in Zachary, never found. Her family still waiting. And then Baton Rouge, Gina Wilson Green, Geraldine DeSoto, Charlotte Murray Pace, Pam Kennemore, Tranisha Collum, Carrie Lynn Yoder. Okay, 6 women in barely a year and a half. And then there's Diane, the one that got away. Okay, the one that he left for dead on her own floor, and she chose to get up and continue to live anyway. That's the full count of what that one man did while the system kept looking. Okay, looking for somebody else at this point. And the whole time they had his DNA. They had Diane breathing, able to describe his face, and they had a piece of telephone cord tying one crime directly to the next. They had everything but his name. And the wildest part, friend, the part that's gonna make you sit right up in whatever you sitting in right now, somebody handed them his name, okay? Now, friend, none of the credit, not a single ounce of it, is going to go to the Baton Rouge PD or the rest of them big name agencies working on this case. Oh, no. Okay. Because who actually cracked the case open was that small little town of Zachary. Okay. Zachary Police Department. Zachary. Okay. They, BRPD and them sheriff's offices and all them people with all them resources up in Baton Rouge, they didn't catch him. The little crew that caught him, okay, the Zachary Police Department, it was a department so small that the detective who cracked this case wide open was a man by the name of David McDavid. He was one of only 2 detectives that they had on the entire force. 2 detectives, friend, for a whole department. Now, working alongside him was an investigator out of the Louisiana Attorney General's office named Danny Mixon. Now, this was the little crew working on it while the big task force was out here swabbing 1,000 innocent men, okay? Connie Warner, Randy Mabura, Michelle Chapman, and her boyfriend, the Zachary cases the big agencies had long stopped thinking about, the ones that didn't even make it to the task force list, they didn't count. They didn't count for them, right? So Zachary gets a tip, and a detective named Joel Odom, working the Mewbrier case, hears from somebody close to Lee that this man was talking about Randy, running his mouth about her. So they pulled that person in, set him down, and what Odom said, they said in that room, and I'm quoting him directly, left him with a strong, strong indication, end quote, that Derrick Todd Lee was her killer. Now the tip is in the right hands. Mixon has it. And Mixon did the thing, okay? The simple thing, the obvious thing. He pulled Derrick Todd Lee's entire criminal record and built a timeline. Every single date this man was locked up, every single date this man was free, and laid that timeline right up next to the dates of every single murder. And friend, every time one of these women took their last breath, this man was free. Not most of the time, not majority of the time, every single time without exception. That's not a coincidence, okay? That's the calendar telling on this man before he even opened his mouth. Now, Mixon said it himself plain as day, quote, I thought Derrick Todd Lee was the most valuable suspect on the streets, end quote. So the Zachary crew take Lee's name to the big task force. McDavid stands up in a room full of major agencies and says it plain as day, okay? He told them folks, we are looking hard at a local man, and his name is Derrick Todd Lee. And you know what they told him? Go home, Roger. If you know, you know. Okay. Now, the killer is a white male. The profile says so. Lee is black. That's not our guy. Sit down, little Zachary. Let the grown folks handle it. Okay. That right there, that's what they said to that man. Okay. And it wasn't the first time they did it. Because remember, friend, let me back up for a second. All the way to September 4th, 2002, before Mixon had ever built this timeline, before McDavid ever walked into that task force room, a woman named Colette Dwyer from St. Francisville called the task force and gave them his name, okay? And this wasn't her first call. She had been tipping Baton Rouge police about this man for years. Every time one of those women turned up dead, she picked up that phone. Now, mind you, Colette Dwyer had been side eyeing Derrick Todd Lee long before anybody else was willing to look at him. She saw it. She knew, okay? And she kept calling anyway, even when they kept telling her she was wrong. And that is what trusting what you feel actually looks like in real life, okay? She said it herself, and I'm quoting her directly. Quote, every time one of those women was killed, I knew it was him. It just took too many lives to get to him, end quote. She knew, friend. A regular citizen knew, and they told her also to go home. And what did the task force do on September 4th, 2002 with that tip? Okay, they sent somebody out to look at Lee's truck, saw it didn't match the white truck description, buffering in real time. They were so married to that white man, white pickup truck that they closed it, marked it done, folded his name up and put it in a drawer because he was black and didn't drive a white truck. Okay. We already sat with that receipt. The Louisiana Supreme Court already put it in writing themselves. That tip sat in the drawer from September 4th, 2002 until Carrie Lynn Yoder was murdered on March 3rd, 2003. And the evidence from her case finally forced them to start looking at everything they had been ignoring. On March 31st, 2003, they pulled Derrick Todd Lee's name back out of that drawer. Okay. Now sit with me. In that window, that exact window, September 4th, 2002 and March 31st, 2003, when his name was folded up collecting dust, Trenisha, Carrie Lynn, two women gone, okay? While Colette Dwyer's tips sat in a drawer because she was right and they didn't listen. Now it's March 31st, 2003, and they finally reopened that tip. And now between that tip and what the Zachary crew had already had on him, his name was the only one in the room. And you know what the little guys did when the task force sent them home? They said, forget it, we finna do this ourselves, okay? Mixon sat down and wrote a 6-page application for a subpoena. A subpoena duces tecum. That's the kind that makes you hand something over whether you want to or not, okay? And they got a judge to sign it. On May 5th, 2003, Danny Mixon walked right up to Derrick Todd Lee in his own driveway and took a swab from inside this man's cheek, okay? Now watch this, because in this moment right here, while they swabbing him, Lee is 38 hot, okay? Cursing, belligerent, talking about they trying to frame him doing the whole innocent man performance like he had rehearsed it and memorized it. And then, baby, that swab touched his cheek. And the Detective Odom, said Derrick Todd Lee went from belligerent to, and I'm quoting now, a whipped puppy, end quote, in a matter of seconds. Because, friend, he knew, okay, that curtain was down, the performance was over. He knew what was on that swab. And he knew what it was going to say. And he knew what they was going to do. And you want to know just how much he knew? Before the lab ever called a soul, before his name ever touched the news, before anything was confirmed public, okay? She pulled the kids up out of school, packed up the house, and the whole family was in the wind. They went to Chicago first and then Atlanta. Now, what in Sam's hell can a man say to his wife to make her empty the whole house in a matter of days after the police then came and swabbed his cheek for some rapes and some murders? I will wait, okay? I'll wait, because ain't no way. Now, friend, May 25th, okay, an analysis came back on that DNA and confirmed what Mixon already knew in his gut, what that calendar already told anybody willing to look at it. It was Derrick Todd Lee. So May 27, 2003, in Atlanta, Georgia, the Atlanta PD fugitive squad moved in on this man, okay? He didn't say a word. He went quiet as a church mouse and didn't resist. The performance was done and over because there was nothing left to perform. And listen, when they finally got him into Louisiana, this man spent his whole time in that interrogation room not talking about the murders per the court record, okay? Not the women, not one of them. He was in there talking about book deals, friend. Make it make sense. He was already counting his cut, okay? 7 women gone and one survivor who barely made it off her own floor. And he was in that room asking for book deals. So they finally get him in a courtroom, and friend, even that part ain't clean. Because out of all of them women, all of them names we just sat here and talked about together, friend, the state of Louisiana only ever put him on trial for 2. August of 2004, West Baton Rouge Parish, Port Allen, a prosecutor named Tony Clayton puts Lee on trial for Geraldine DeSoto, the one who fought, the one who ran for her bedroom and got her shotgun, scratched his DNA all up and under her fingernails on his way out. The prosecution took 3 days to lay it all out. The defense took 3 hours. 3, because that's how thin their case was, okay? And friend, here's who walked through that courtroom door to testify. Diane Alexander, the one he left dead on her own floor in Bro Bridge, right? She had that fractured skull, got airlifted to that hospital. She walked into that courtroom, baby, with her head held high and pointed her finger at Derrick Todd Lee and said, and I'm quoting her directly now, quote, while my eyes were closed, I did not forget your face, end quote. She had been beaten so badly that during the attack, her eyes were swollen completely shut and she still did not forget. And at one point during that trial, Lee tried to fire his own lawyer in the middle of the testimony, stood up and told the judge, my life is on the line here. Like, you just figured that out, sir? Okay. So the jury came back in an hour and 40 minutes. Okay. It was 11-1 guilty, second degree murder. That's a mandatory life in prison without parole, probation, or suspended sentence. Okay. Because we tired of suspended sentences over here. Now, friend, that one juror who voted not guilty, that kept it from being a unanimous verdict, because it wasn't unanimous, it couldn't be first degree. Louisiana law at the time allowed convictions without all 12 agreeing. 10 votes was enough for a second degree, and 11 was what they got. And at sentencing, Geraldine's father stood up, looked at Derrick Todd Lee in his eyes, and said, and I'm quoting, you don't know how bad I want to get a little closer to you. Thank God my daughter gave her soul to Christ before you took it. We know where your soul is going, end quote. Then that fall, East Baton Rouge Parish, a prosecutor named John Sequinfield tries Lee for Charlotte Murray Paces, okay? First degree murder. The death penalty on the table. That trial ran from September 13th through October 12th, 2004. And this time, all 12 jurors came back the same way. Guilty, unanimous, 12-0, first degree murder. And the penalty phase, all 12 said the same thing again. He should die for it. December 10th, 2004, the judge sentenced Derrick Todd Lee to death by lethal injection. He was sent to Angola, death row, Louisiana State Penitentiary. And friend, at trial, the prosecution laid everything out. The DNA tying him scene after scene. The trail he left, okay? Every single time, every receipt ended up in front of the jurors. And Diane Alexander, the woman he picked just because he thought she was alone, the one he left dead, she testified in both of those trials, okay? He picked the wrong door, picked the wrong woman, and it cost him everything. Now, 2 trials, 2 women. The rest of the families, though, after watching what it took to put this man on trial twice, the years of it, the reliving every single detail out loud in an open courtroom, a lot of them just couldn't. They declined to keep going. And friend, who could blame them? Even a little, okay? So Gina, Pam, Tranisha, and Carrie Lynn, their cases closed without a courtroom. The DNA did tie him to them, and everybody knew, but their families did not stand in front of a jury to say their names out loud and watch somebody be held accountable for them specifically. And Randy Newbrow, her family never got her body to this day. They still missing it. The most basic thing is a place to go and put some flowers down, right? A place for her body to rest. So Derrick Todd Lee went to Angola on death row and he sat there for 12 years, filed appeal after appeal. The Louisiana Supreme Court upheld his death sentence, though. In 2008, his very last appeal got thrown out. Nothing was ever overturned, not one ruling in his favor. And he never confessed, not to a single one, okay? But friend, here's what low key pisses me off, okay? Because the disrespect of it, the absolute nerve of this man to not die by lethal injection. This man died of heart disease in a hospital bed with doctors around him, okay? A peaceful, quiet, natural death. After what he did to those women, after what he took from them, the audacity of this man's heart to give out on its own terms when he never gave them the single courtesy. So on January 21st, 2016, Derrick Lee died in a hospital in Zachary, Louisiana, the same parish where he started, 47 years old. And here's the thing that came out of all of this, okay? A change happened. Louisiana had already had a database on the law books passed back in 1997, designed specifically to collect DNA profiles and catch exactly this kind of man. But they never funded it. You hear me? The law was sitting there written down. They just didn't have no money put behind it, which is a significant reason why this man, Derrick Todd Lee's entire documented history could cycle in and out of the system for years and never get matched to a single crime scene. So after all of this death in 2003, they finally fixed it. Act 487 started collecting DNA at arrest, and this time they funded it. The database jumped from 12,000 profiles to nearly 500,000. It is a good law, a necessary law, but let's be honest about the price of it. It took all of these women and a survivor just to get somebody to put money behind what was already written down. And here's what I need you to understand about this, because this part matters more than people really want to sit with. That database law was passed in 1997, 6 years before they caught him. 6 years it sat there, funded by nothing, doing nothing, protecting nobody. And the people who decide whether a law like that gets money behind it are elected officials. People you voted for or didn't vote for, or didn't show up to vote against. Now, I'm not telling you who to vote for, friend. That's not my lane. But I'm telling you that laws without funding are just pretty words on paper. And the people writing the budget that decide which words get money and which words get ignored got there because of votes. Your votes, your neighbor's votes, the people who showed up and the people who didn't. Pull up my page and you can figure out where to find this information. I keep it there for you. Because being nosy about receipts don't stop at crime files. It extends to the people making the decisions that affect us all. Every person this man got to, he got to because he looked safe, because he sounded normal, because he said the right thing at the right time, and nothing about him set off the alarm that should have went off. Gina had pepper spray at every single window at her home. She had an alarm system. She had already told people she felt unsafe. Friend, she was paying attention with everything she had, and he still got through, okay? Diane opened the door to a man asking to use the phone because he was lost and needed to figure out where he was going. Something any one of us could have done. Something any one of us probably has done. That's the thing about people like this that I need you to carry with you when you leave here today, friend. When you leave this conversation, know that it was never about being careless. It was never about not being smart enough or aware enough. These were sharp, accomplished, paying attention women. And this man spent his entire life perfecting the art of looking like somebody you could trust. So I'm not going to give you a list of things you possibly doing wrong or could do better. That's not what this is. Friend, what I will tell you is this: that gut feeling you get, that little thing in your body that goes, something ain't right here. That quiet, uncomfortable shift that happens before your brain even catches up to explain it about a person, about somebody new in your space, about somebody who's been around a while, but something just started to feel different, or a space that just disrupts your peace. Listen to that every single time, friend, without apology, without explanation, without worrying about being rude or seeming unfriendly or making somebody feel bad. You don't owe nobody access to your space. You don't owe nobody niceness. You can be the most unbothered, unbending, unapologetic, resting bitch face person breathing, okay? If it means you come home to your people at night. And I will back you on it every single day of the week and twice on Sunday, okay? Don't let nobody charm you out your gut, friend. A fresh haircut ain't a character reference. A nice smile ain't safety. And can I use your phone real quick? It's just words until you know who's saying them. Trust what you feel, guard your space, and come home to your people every single time. It was never that this man was some criminal genius. He wasn't. He was nothing, friend. Again, trifling. A trifling man who left his blood behind at just about every scene, left a survivor breathing, able to describe his face, left a telephone cord connecting one woman's home to another woman's body, left his own phone pinging off of towers in the dark, took souvenirs he didn't need, ran his mouth to people who knew him about a woman who had gone missing. He wasn't playing a game, friend. He wasn't some mastermind dangling clues, daring anybody to catch him. That is movies. That's not what this is. This man was just impulsive, sloppy, undisciplined, operating like the rules of the world did not apply to him and never had, because up to that point, they hadn't. But here's what I want you to walk away with today, friend. Colette Dwyer picked up the phone, a regular citizen, not a detective, not a prosecutor, not somebody with a badge or a title or a task force with her name behind it, okay? Just a woman who was paying attention, who trusted what she felt, who said his name out loud even when nobody wanted to hear it, okay? David McDavid and Danny Mixon went back to their two-man department after getting told to go home and did it anyway. Built the timeline, got the subpoena, walked up to that driveway. Diane Alexander survived, healed up, and walked into not one but two courtrooms on her own 2 feet with her head held high and looked that man in his face both times. And Geraldine DeSoto, who fought him with that shotgun in her bare hands, left receipts that helped put him away. The system failed these women badly, friend, and we can't gloss over that. These people showed up, the regular people, okay, in this story every single time. And that's what I want you to carry with you here today. Not just the weight of what was lost, but the proof of what people can do when they decide to keep going anyway. I found it, I read it, and now I just told you, friend. And listen, friend, before I go, don't let nobody play in your face, okay? Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember to side eye responsibly. And listen, if you got receipts of something that had you like, what? Slide on over to Instagram and TikTok at the Side Eye Files, YouTube at the Side Eye Files podcast. Tap in, okay? You can also hit the email, thesideeyefiles@gmail.com, because you already know I'm nosy and I might want to hear it too, okay? And listen, I might even do something with it, but we'll talk about that real soon. All right, friend, that's it for now. Stay nosy. I'm finna head out and I'll see you next Wednesday.